because there is a provide more security assistance to Ukraine. We will also address how to ensure that we have a more robust framework, platform for our support, to ensure also that we have a long-term commitment. And therefore, I expect that the NATO ministers will agree a plan for a NATO security assistance and training for Ukraine. And we'll also discuss a long-term financial pledge that I expect Allied leaders will agree at the NATO summit in July. Then we will address deterrence and defense. We have agreed new ambitious defense plans. Now we have to make sure that we have the forces, the capabilities, the readiness to meet all the requirements in the defense plans. A part of that will also be, of course, to ensure that we are able to ramp up production, and the NATO ministers will address a NATO defense industry pledge to ensure that we work together to increase production across North America and Europe, across the whole alliance. Then I expect also our NATO ministers to address the Russian campaign of hostile activities against NATO allies. We have seen several examples of sabotage, of arson attempts, of cyber attacks, of disinformation. And we will also then work on NATO response options, which I expect will include increased awareness, exchange of information, intelligence, step up the protection of critical infrastructure, including undersea infrastructure and cyber, and also tighter restrictions on Russian intelligence personnel across the alliance. Then we will also meet in the nuclear planning group of the alliance, which is a regular meeting of this group. With that, I'm ready to take some questions.
Thank you. We'll start with DPA. Hi, Latvian DPA. According to President Zelensky, he said that he needs 7 air defense systems like Patriots. How optimistic are you that you will get this together? And are you willing to convince the other countries to support that?
Since President Zelensky made that requirement, or made it clear that there is urgent need for more air defense systems, actually at the NATO defense ministerial meeting here in April, we have worked hard on that. I welcome that some allies have made already announcements and are in the process of delivering more air defense. That includes Germany, that has announced 1 extra Patriot on top of what they already delivered. Italy has announced that they will deliver a SAMP-T air defense system, which is another advanced system. And we are working with other allies also to ensure that we have more allies delivering these most advanced systems. Then we have already seen that allies have delivered Patriot interceptors. We have seen that allies are delivering other types of air defense systems. So we are working hard to ensure that allies are delivering more and as urgently as possible. And I expect allies to make announcement in the coming days and weeks.
Thank you. Yes, New York Times. Following the agreement yesterday morning with Mr. Orban, do you have any concerns that other allies may also start withholding some of their support for Ukraine in terms of military or financial aid?
No, and that's because there is broad agreement, and that has been also broad agreement across the alliance for many years, and in particular since the full-scale invasion in February, that we need to provide military support to Ukraine. Hungary has been clear since the beginning that they don't provide lethal aid. but other allies have provided in different formats, bilaterally and through the US-led contact group, lethal aid, military support to Ukraine for a long time. What we are doing now is that we are agreeing a NATO plan for security assistance and training for Ukraine to ensure a more robust framework, to ensure more predictability, and combined with a financial pledge. The whole idea is to minimize the risk for gaps and delays, as we saw earlier this year, because the gaps and delays in both the provision of military support from the United States, but also from several European allies, made a difference on the battlefield. It's one of the reasons why the Russians are now able to push and to actually occupy more land in Ukraine. And therefore, Ukraine needs predictability, they need a long-term commitment, and we also need more accountability. And therefore, I'm glad that when I met Prime Minister Orban yesterday, we agreed that Ukraine will not be part of this effort. They will not send Ukrainian personnel to the NATO effort to provide more security assistance and training. They will not be part of the financial pledge. But at the same time, Hungary made it clear that they will not block other allies from moving forward to agree the plan and to agree a financial pledge. And Hungary will also, of course, meet all its other NATO obligations, including by their contributions to NATO's common funding. Yeah.
Has it been agreed then that the contact group will be brought under NATO coordination as opposed to the United States?
I think we need to distinguish. The contact group is a US-led effort, and the contact group has played and is playing a very important role. We meet today here. This is about the practical implementation of the delivery of security assistance and training, partly also activities which are now taking place in Wiesbaden, so that is separate from the corporate, from the contact group.
Okay, Alexander, Deutsche Welle.
Thank you very much. This is the last defense ministers meeting before the summit in DC. What would you describe then as the biggest stumbling blocks, the biggest issues that you still need to discuss on your way to a successful summit? Thank you.
The main topics at the summit will be Ukraine, it will be deterrence and defense, and it will be our partnership with the Asia-Pacific partners, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and South Korea. Of course, we have work to do on all these issues before we finalize the decisions. I expect that today and tomorrow we will agree the plan for NATO security assistance and training for Ukraine. But of course, it remains work to do on the financial pledge. My proposal is that we should agree a long-term financial pledge with a baseline of 40 billion per year. That is new, fresh money every year delivered to Ukraine because they need that to be sure that they have the resources to repel the Russian aggression against their country. And by having a NATO pledge and a NATO plan, we will have more transparency, more predictability, and more accountability. And we still have some work to do on that before we have the full agreement in Washington. On deterrence and defense, this is very much about having the forces, but also ensuring that we are delivering on defense spending. I will soon publish a new report with updated figures for how many allies that are meeting the pledge to spend at least 2% of GDP on defense. I cannot go into the details now, but those numbers are good. So it reflects that the allies are taking this seriously. It will be important also as a message from the Washington summit on burden sharing, increased defense spending. And then on the Asia-Pacific partners, we are working now on concrete deliverables on how we can do more together with them, is also addressing the challenge that China poses to our security. So I don't see any particular big stumbling blocks, but there is hard work that needs to be done, as it always is before NATO summits, before we have all things in place by the summit.
Thank you. AFP, go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Olivier Beau from AFP. Sir, are you worried of the political situation in France, which could bring a government, a pro-Russia government, which might reduce its support to Ukraine and also advocate for a partial exit of France from NATO?
Well, NATO is an alliance of 32 allies, and we have elections in all these countries, and different parties, different governments are elected, and that has been part of NATO's history for 75 years. It has often happened that people ask questions whether a new government, a new majority, will be loyal to NATO. At the end of the day, this is, of course, for the voters of each and every country to decide. But the experience is that NATO allies have always been able to stand united, and NATO allies have, regardless of, as I say, the different parties elected and the different majorities in the parliaments, we have always seen that the NATO allies have remained committed to the alliance because it is in the security interest of each and every ally to be committed. So I expect France to remain a staunch and important ally also in the future.
Army Inform Ukraine. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yuri Onishchenko, News Agency, Army Inform Ukraine. Secretary-General, media recently reported that NATO looks to create new special envoy post in Ukraine. Whether this issue will be discussed by the minister? New special envoy post in Ukraine.
Oh, yeah. No, I think, well, so NATO has a liaison office in Kiev, in Ukraine already. I met with the people working there when I visited Kiev in April. So, of course, we will always adapt that presence, but NATO has had we have a presence in Ukraine. We'll continue to have a presence in Ukraine, we continue to adapt the format of that civilian presence in Ukraine.
Okay, final question on the left over there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary-General. Carla Babb with Voice of America. Will Ukraine have enough pilots trained on the F-16 by the end of summer? And should those F-16s be allowed to fire across into Russian territory or Russian airspace once they have those F-16s in place?
So, NATO allies are working hard together with Ukraine to train pilots, but also to train personnel to be able to sustain technical maintenance, other types of personnel we need to ensure that we have the F-16 capability. This is more than pilots, it's about all the support staff that is needed. They are working hard to do that as soon as possible. I will be careful giving you any specific dates. But this is a huge undertaking. A lot of effort has already been put into it. There are training facilities, including in Romania. I met the Romanian president recently in Riga, where this was addressed. And rest assured, we are doing this as fast as possible. But of course, this will not be operational until it's safe and secure. Then different allies have different types of restrictions on the use of their weapons. But I would like to, I welcome that allies have reduced or loosened the restrictions on the use of weapons also against military targets inside Russia, because we need to understand what this is. This is a war or aggression. Russia has attacked Ukraine, and that's a blatant violation of international law. According to international law, Ukraine has the right for self-defense, and the right of self-defense includes also striking legitimate military targets on the territory of the aggressor, Russia. If they were not able to do so, then we would actually ask them to try to defend themselves, uphold the right of self-defense with one hand tied on their back. Self-defense is not escalation. Self-defense is a right enshrined in the UN Charter, and we have the right to help Ukraine uphold the right, and by doing that, NATO allies don't become party to the conflict. And this is even more obvious now, because until now, most of the fighting has taken place deep into Ukrainian territory. But now, actually, Russia opened a new front. They opened the front in the north, in the Kharkiv, where they are attacking Kharkiv directly from Russian territory, just over the border. The border and the front line is more or less the same. And of course, if the Russian forces, the artillery, the missile batteries were safe as soon as they were on the Russian side of the border, it would become extremely difficult for the Ukrainians to defend themselves. So I will not go into every operational aspect of this, but I only say that Ukraine has the right to strike military targets on Russian territory, part of the right for self-defense, and we have the right to support them in defending themselves.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry,
Thank you.
That's
Thank
all
you
we
so
have
much.
time for. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is William Blair. I'm the Minister of National Defence for Canada. Today I have the opportunity to join approximately 50 of our counterparts for the 23rd meeting of the Ukraine Defence Contract Group. And what this group has accomplished is really, in my opinion, quite remarkable. And since February of 2022, this group has provided approximately $100 billion in military assistance to Ukraine as it fights for its freedom and its sovereignty. Together, we will continue to work hard to do whatever it takes to support Ukraine to win in this fight. And today, I will also be announcing on behalf of Canada that we are going to continue to support our friends in Ukraine. First, I'm announcing that Canada will provide Ukraine with 2,300 Canadian Rocket Vehicle 7s, or CRV rocket motors. And this equipment was formerly used by the Royal Canadian Air Force on our CF-18 aircraft. And over the past several months, we've been testing these rockets to ensure their viability, following requests from the Armed Forces of Ukraine for this equipment. And we are continuing to test an additional 80,000 of these CRV-7 rockets, and pending the results of those tests, we intend to ship more packages of these motors to our Ukrainian partners in the future. I'm also announcing today that Canada will send an additional number of rounds of small arms ammunition, as well as 29 NANOC remote systems. The NANOC is remotely controlled weapon station used by the Canadian Army on our own light armored vehicles. It's built by Rheinmetall Canada, and the NANOC system can be mounted on various armored vehicles in Ukraine. I'm also very pleased to note that this week, Canada is beginning shipments of a new fleet of 50 armored vehicles to Ukraine. The first 4 vehicles are departing Canada this week, and they will be delivered to the Ukrainian Armed Forces in the coming weeks. These are state-of-the-art vehicles built by Canadian workers in London, Ontario, and this summer Ukrainian troops will be trained in their use. Moving forward, we must all continue to do our very best to support Ukraine. Our Prime Minister is currently in Europe at the G7 and the Ukraine Peace Summit to reiterate our commitment to stand with Ukraine until victory. And as a member of the Air Force, drone and armor coalitions, Canada will continue to step up for Ukraine. And I'm pleased to note that in the next few weeks, we will begin shipping the first batches of the 900 drones that we are donating to Ukraine. So far, Canada has committed over $14 billion in assistance to Ukraine, and we will continue to support them in every way possible. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions you may have.
Ukraine has been calling for air defense lately. Is there anything that Canada can contribute in terms of air defense systems?
What we are doing is as part of the Air Defense Coalition. I recently came to an agreement with Minister Boris Pistorius from Germany. They have provided a coalition opportunity to acquire air defense missiles rapidly through their procurements, and we've committed $76 million to that effort. In funding, we provided them with money. They've indicated to us that they can acquire those missiles and deliver them to Ukraine in a very rapidly, because that's what's required. Our ability to deliver those through Canadian manufacturers would take much more time, and so we're providing them with the funding to acquire those missiles to deliver them to Ukraine because they need them now.
Are those the Patriot missiles that Germany just announced?
And again, it's part of a coalition. I think there are a number of countries contributing to that. I've committed $76 million of our funding to Germany in order to assist in that coalition.
Minister, can you help help us understand why it is so difficult to put the 7 Patriot missiles, systems together that Ukraine has been requesting for such a long time?
Yes, they are. Unfortunately, in Canada, I don't have a Patriot system. We had some missiles that we were able to donate, and we've been working with our coalition partners to get that equipment, much needed equipment, I agree, and other anti-missile systems as well, to Ukraine as quickly as possible. Well, and again, I think what we have found is that production needs to increase in both speed and in its volume. And we're all working very hard to increase that production of Patriot systems and other systems. And for example, Canada has committed to providing a NASAM missile system to Ukraine. We found that the quickest way to do that was in coalition with the United States. And so we've joined in a partnership for that acquisition through them, and we are still waiting delivery. Thank you all very much. Have a good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Apologies for my voice since I've been able to catch a cold. Let me say that first today we have a meeting with the Ukraine Defense Contact Group where Sweden again will announce, of course, our long-term contribution to the support of Ukraine. We have made pledges now over 3 years for 6.5 billion euros. We're also going to be talking about our latest support package for Ukraine, which is about 1.2 billion euros, including also our contribution with our AWACS plan or an early warning airborne sensor. In addition to that, of course, this is a very important meeting also for Sweden. This is the first time that Sweden participates at a defense ministerial meeting as a full-fledged member. This is also a very important meeting for NATO in the run-up for the 75-year anniversary meeting in Washington. We hope and we expect that meeting to be shaped by unity and resolve for NATO. In addition, we're going to be having a meeting with the NATO-Ukraine Council as well, and there's going to be discussions about NATO's coordinating role for the support for Ukraine. It's something that Sweden will very much welcome. There's going to be discussions also about the regional plans and making sure that we strengthen the ability to defend and defend every inch of alliance territory and make sure that the regional plans are executable. There's also going to be a meeting in the nuclear planning group. Sweden, of course, as an ally, stands behind the principle that NATO is built on nuclear and conventional deterrence. And in essence, this is going to be an important stepping stone in the run-up for the Washington summit in July. And I'll be glad to take any questions you might have.
What can Sweden contribute to that?
We are in deliberation for that. Let me say that we provided numerous air defense systems to the Ukrainians. We provided Hawk, we provided RBS-70, where together with the Germans also contributed to IRIS-T. There are deliberations also in regard to what we can do together with the 11 other countries that are operating the Patriot system. If we could do that, we're contributing also to the German initiative financially as well. So and we also provided with AMRAAMs. So we have a big portfolio of air defense systems that we have provided and that we are looking forward also continue to providing for the Ukrainians.
What is Sweden contributing to the Netherlands initiative to source parts of Patriot systems for Ukraine?
There was a meeting this morning in regard to that. I know also there was a meeting in the United States where all the 11 countries are involved. As far as I understand, there's various ways you could contribute. You could contribute training with parts of the systems or financially. And the discussions are ongoing right now in order to make sure also that all the systems in the Patriot systems, that they make sure that they are interoperable.
So what do you think Sweden will contribute?
Well, we are in deliberations for that. There was a breakfast meeting this morning. Unfortunately, I came in now because I couldn't leave last night. But I want to see the results from this breakfast, and we stand open to contribute in a good and constructive way.
Do you expect some changes in fighter plans and in Gripens?
Yeah, we of course had the honor to have President Zelensky and Minister Romero in Stockholm on the 31st of May. We had the discussions then, and then we signed our bilateral security agreement that entails at least 4 important components. It entails, of course, our contributions with our AWACS, which will be a force multiplier for the F-16 contributions. It contains F-16. It contains the deliberation on how we can support the Ukrainians with training. It also includes further deliberations also on the Gripen system and possibly also training in that regard. So that are some of the deliberations. But of course, if we do this, this has to be done also in very close correlation with the Air Force coalition as well, I want to stress.
And Minister, how united is the alliance when one member of the alliance can have an opt-out when it comes to supporting Ukraine? Is this the new normal?
Well, I think it's very important that we make progress on supporting Ukraine, and we think that this is a pragmatic way to move forward in this regard. So the most important thing is that the alliance as such can deliver in its support to Ukraine. So in that regard, I welcome the initiative by the Secretary-General to make sure that we have a long-term commitment and engagement by NATO in the support of Ukraine. And of course, Ukraine will eventually also become a full-fledged member of NATO.
Aren't you afraid that Ukraine might be disappointed by the outcome of the Washington summit, the little additional they will have?
We are absolutely determined on the Swedish side, and I know many of the other allies as well are committed to make sure that the Washington summit is going to be successful, that we're going to have a strong sense of unity, and that we're going to also make support for Ukraine a key issue for this summit. I always say there's no other issue that is as pressing for and as important for Sweden and Europe's security that it is the Ukrainians who wins this horrible war and not the Russians.
tähän vai? Okei, hyvää huomenta kaikille. Tärkeät 2 päivää edessä. Ukrainan tuen järjestelyt ja sitten Naton puolustuksen ja pelotteen kokonaisuus ja ydinasesuunnitteluryhmän kokoontuminen vielä perjantaina iltapäivällä. Tärkeimpänä täällä tietysti on Ukrainan tuen vahvistaminen. Ukrainan tuki on läntisen yhteisön tärkein tehtävä tällä hetkellä ja lännellä on riittävät resurssit. Nyt ne pitää vaan pystyä kanavoimaan niin, että Ukraina kykenee sodassa pärjäämään. Suomi tulee jatkaa vahvaa tukea, se on selvä, ja me annetaan vahva tuki myös tälle Naton vahvemmalle koordinaatiovastuulle tästä Ukrainan tuesta, joka on nyt asialistalla. Samoin puolustuksen ja pelotteen kokonaisuudessa sitten huomenna aamun kokouksessa, niin se on erittäin tärkeää, että NATO ottaa nyt selviä isoja askeleita eteenpäin oman puolustuksen ja pelotteen vahvistamisessa. Ja erityisesti tähän turvallisuusympäristöön nähden, niin NATO vastaa nyt siihen muuttuneeseen tilanteeseen. Suomen integraatio etenee tällä hetkellä erittäin hyvin. Pitkään käyty keskustelua talvesta lähtien Suomen integraatiosta eri vahvistavista elementeistä ja olen luottavainen siihen, että nämä on oikealla raiteella.
Miten Suomi osallistuu Naton ydinasepelotteen harjoitteluun?
Me ei tässä vaiheessa kommentoida näitä asioita. Me osallistutaan ydinasesuunnitteluryhmän kokouksiin täysimääräisesti. Siellä otetaan askeleita eteenpäin ja Suomi tekee kansallisesti omia päätöksiä, joista tiedotetaan sitten erikseen ajallaan.
Näyttääkö siltä, että Suomen toivomat esikuntarakenteet vois jotenkin nyt kättää eteenpäin? Esimerkiksi tämä FLF-asia, missä yritetään saada vähän pysyvämmin joukkoja harjoittelemaan Suomessa.
No, Suomelle on ollut tärkeää, että me pystytään saamaan Natolle riittävän vahvat komentojoukkorakenteet, puolustussuunnitelmat pohjoiseen ulottuvuuteen. Tätä on viime syksystä lähtien valmisteltu ja sitten tuotu meidän konkreettiset esitykset tuossa alkutalvesta myös muille ministereille ja Naton johdolle tietoon. Tästä on käyty lukuisten NATO-maiden kautta neuvottelua viimeisen puolen vuoden aikana ja ne on nyt etenemässä oikealla raiteella.
Tehdäänkö tänään päätöksiä? Kysyn vaan jatkon, että tehdäänkö tänään täällä päätöksiä, että voitte sanoa jo, että Suomi menee sinne ja saa tämän?
Pyrimme saamaan asiat ratkeamaan, mutta tänään vielä on tapaamisia ja uskon, että asiat etenee oikeaan suuntaan.
Unkari irrottautui Naton yhteisestä Ukraina-tuesta. Unkarilla on ollut myös EU:ssa vähän oma linja. Mitä ajattelette tästä? Kärsiikö tämä Naton ja EUn yhtenäisyys tällä hetkellä?
Unkarille on nyt pääsihteerin toimesta räätälöity erillistä mallia, mutta isossa kuvassa se ei heikennä tätä lännen tuen volyymia. Unkari ei ole tähän astikaan antanut sitä tukea ja vain konkreettinen annettu sotilaallinen ja materiaalinen taloudellinen tuki ratkaisee. Ja näillä mailla, jotka on sitoutunut Ukrainan tukeen, jotka kohta tapaavat tässä Ukrainan tukiryhmän kokouksessa, niin meillä on riittävät resurssit ja kyvykkyys tehdä se riittävä tuen antaminen. Eli nyt tarvitaan vain lisää päätöksiä.
Tapahtuuko tämä tuen antaminen Suomen BKT-mallilla? Suomen ajamalla tällä BKT-osuusmallilla?
No, Natossa katsotaan nyt, että miten tämä koordinaatio BKT-malli etenee, mutta Suomi ei jää sinänsä omassa tuessa odottelemaan tätä. Eli me annamme vahvaa tukea edelleen ja toivotaan, että jokainen jäsenmaa tekee jatkuvasti vahvempia tukipäätöksiä.
Question in English, please.
Hi, good morning. We are having two important days ahead of us. Supporting Ukraine is, of course, the number one thing, and strengthening the NATO's defense and deterrence is highly important for Finland. Supporting Ukraine with stronger military aid is our most important task at this time now for the whole Western countries. There cannot be that kind of result in the war that Russia will win. That's not the right reward for Russia. That's why we have to intensify the support for Ukraine. Finland is supporting also the NATO's stronger coordination position in Ukrainian aid. We are also taking further steps strengthening the NATO's defense and deterrence. That's highly important. For Finland, it's highly important also that the NATO is taking stronger role in the Northern Europe because Finland and Sweden joined to NATO, and now we are seeing the further steps to strengthen NATO's deterrence and defense also in the Northern Europe.
Yesterday, Ukraine Secretary-General talked about 40 billion fund for Ukraine. Can you tell us something more about this? Do you know how it will be financed? Will it be new money?
Well, there's a package about what Secretary-General has said, but the main role for NATO should be a coordination role, and Finland is supporting the new role for NATO to coordinate this aid for Ukraine. And that's also important that the NATO has this bigger role in this coordination system.
And Ukraine has been calling for more...
Today is important meetings supporting Ukraine. Ukraine continues to fight for its freedom. Ukraine continues to fight for rules-based international order, also for the values of democracy and freedom. So that's why continuous support is extremely important and instrumental. Latvia also, of course, does its part. We have signed one of the first countries' security commitment agreement with Ukraine. We commit ourselves 0.25% of our GDP for military support of Ukraine. Training, of course, goes on. Latvia, together with Britain, also co-leads drone coalitions, so capability coalitions are also important formats of expanding and deepening relationship and support and supplies for Ukraine. That's why I believe this is very important formats. And drone coalition also, there is a commitment by countries already to supply funding more than 500 million euros. And of course already the first patches of drones already are going to Ukraine. So Latvia also has sent the first package of drones. Last but not least, we also of course fully support Ukraine in terms of striking targets in aggressor country. Ukraine fights for its freedom, and of course the right for self-defense is absolutely there. So that's why we also believe that it is important Ukraine has right to strike those primarily military targets on territory of Russia. Thank you.
Ukraine has been calling for more air defense system. Germany has been leading a new effort to provide Patriot missile systems to Ukraine. But so far progress has been rather slow. Can you explain to us why, and do you understand the slowness of the process?
Well, air defense systems, absolutely. These are the crucial ones for protecting civilians, protecting military infrastructure, but I would say civilians and civilian infrastructure extremely important. And of course we see the supplies are there, understanding is there, but we also realize that there is for some years already some shortage of the air defense systems like Patriots, but the will is there. So we see also the movement in this regard. We of course provide the different air defense systems, including short-range air defense systems. Latvia has provided short-range air defense systems, but of course when we speak about those more sophisticated the air defense systems, medium and long-range air defense systems, so of course in this case there is to some extent a shortage of those systems, and here we see that again movement takes place, but it takes some time as well.
So are you worried by the increase of the Russian intelligence, and what do you think NATO should do about it?
Excuse me, once more?
Are you worried by the increase of Russian intelligence activities within NATO territory, and what do you think NATO should do about it?
Absolutely. So we see that Russia implements hybrid activities, hybrid war, and we see it also in Latvia, but it's all around NATO countries. We see those potential incidents, and it's not surprising. We deal with an aggressor country which has undermined the international rules-based order, so of course its activities don't come as a surprise. So of course in this case the cooperation among the NATO countries on all levels, on also the strengthening resilience of societies, cooperating also, of course, among intelligence agencies is absolutely crucial, and it takes place.
Yesterday, Secretary-General talked about a new fund for Ukraine, 40 billion euros a year. What can you tell us more about this fund? Will it be new money? How it will be financed?
Well, certainly there is a will and commitment to look for various and additional formats in terms of funding, in terms of military supplies. So that's why, of course, we'll be looking into this as well.
What will take after discovering that MIP deputy Tatiana Zhdanok was an agent of Russian FSB?
Well, of course, Tatiana Zhdanok, she has proven to be not very loyal in many ways. And she was prohibited, she was banned from participating in elections. So party was also under investigation. So that's why, of course, we are democratic and rules-based country, so the investigation must take place. But the primary activities already took place. That, yes, we prohibited Tatiana Zhdanok for participating because she proved herself in her activities that, well, supporting actually the indirectly and directly Russia's aggression.
Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe, that Latvia started military production of military vehicles on its territory. Do you have plans of further investments in military production, and what kind of production it will be?
Absolutely. Military industry, we understand how important it is. So we support, of course, the additional spending for military in general. But it's not just about military, it's also about investing in military defense industry within European Union, within NATO, and also within Latvia. So we are making considerable steps in this regard. Exactly recently, we opened a factory of armed carriers in Latvia, and already this year we are planning to supply Latvian armed troops with Latvian-made armed personnel carriers. And yes, absolutely. So we believe that it can just be expanded. We'll look for also other opportunities internationally, how we can do it together. We obtained also the grant from European Commission, European Union on production ammunition together with our international partners. So that's why, yes, Latvia believes that military industry is key, is crucial to produce all those necessary assets like, of course, the transportation vehicles, ammunition, air defense systems, and here international cooperation is very important. So that's where also we're voicing within NATO, but also within European Union. So this is extremely important for us to become really strong and also to supply and support Ukraine.
What kind of air defense systems? I'm terribly sorry.
Sorry, once more?
What kind of ammunition and what kind of anti-aircraft systems?
As we speak about ammunition, so of course now we have a shortage of 155 ammunition. And what the project will be together with our international partners, Namo, Nexter, Simel, Italian, Finnish, Norwegian and French partners, it will be the producing modular charges in Latvia as well. So it's expansion of the whole project, but also including in Latvia.
What is the added value of a NATO-led platform or framework to coordinate military support for Ukraine?
Well, I think we should use all formats, all platforms to support Ukraine. So that's why, of course, we have Rammstein format, we have European Union format. Of course, certainly we should use also all advantages what NATO also provides. So certainly sort of they are complementary in terms of providing support for Ukraine. The more, the better in this case.
There's been reported that the Russian GRU organized a series of arsons across Europe, and one of the arsons, as mentioned by the New York Times, was in Latvia. Could you provide details about which facilities, objects in Latvia was put on fire?
Well, as I said before, we see some unfriendly activities, to put it mildly, all around Europe. Latvia, of course, is in front line, and we've been facing hybrid attacks already for some time. Cyber attacks, weaponization of illegal migration. So we see also such incidents as well. But of course, now there is investigation. So I would not comment on the details on an investigation, but it just once more proves how important it is to cooperate among the partners, cooperate among the intelligence agencies, but of course to strengthen the resilience of society in general. Well, we've seen some of the incidents. I would not go now into the detail on this.
So aren't you afraid Ukraine will be disappointed by the outcome of the Washington summit, the little additional they will get from the summit?
Well, of course, summit is very symbolic. It comes in a very important times. In fight for freedom in Ukraine. Of course, also 75th anniversary of NATO as a most successful collective defense alliance. So that's why it is important that we provide some practical results in defending and also strengthening deterrence capabilities within NATO, but also practically supporting Ukraine. So, of course, we are having discussions how specifically we can also move forward. Some practical steps have been taken, and we'll be making those practical steps also within NATO summit in Washington, D.C. So, of course, the most important part is to make Ukraine even closer to NATO membership. Latvia supports Ukraine's NATO membership, but again, as already the previously formula goes, when conditions allow, when allies agree. So that's why, of course, the practical steps are at the moment very important to make Ukraine even closer to NATO. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Wieder hier bin. Ein Schritt nach rechts. Ach da, ja, wunderbar. Dann nehmen wir doch das. Ich freue mich, Sie alle hier zu sehen. Ich freue mich sehr, mit meinen Amtskolleginnen und Kollegen heute wieder ausführlich über das zu sprechen, gleich am Anfang des Tages, was wir weiter tun können für die Ukraine, wie wir sie auch in Zukunft unterstützen können, ihr helfen können, ihr Land gegen den russischen Aggressor zu verteidigen. Was uns alle eint hier ist in die Absicht, dass die Ukraine bestmöglich in ihrem Verteidigungskampf unterstützt werden muss. Ich hatte vor wenigen Tagen Besuch vom ukrainischen Präsidenten Zelensky bei uns in Deutschland, hat im Bundestag gesprochen und danach waren wir beide in Sanitz zur Patriot-Ausbildung seiner ukrainischen Soldaten. Und bei den Gesprächen mit ihm ist wieder einmal völlig nicht überraschend klar geworden, wie wichtig die Unterstützung ist mit Material natürlich, aber vor allen Dingen auch bei der Ausbildung der Soldatinnen und Soldaten. Und wie Sie wissen, bilden wir in Sanitz das zweite Mal ukrainische Soldaten am Patriot-System aus. Die Ausbildung wird bald abgeschlossen sein. Und dann werden wir unser drittes Patriot-System also in die Ukraine verlegen. Deutschland stellt damit der Ukraine insgesamt 3 Systeme zur Verfügung. Wir haben außerdem unsere Initiative gestartet, IAD, um weitere Unterstützung im Bereich Luftverteidigung zu organisieren. Das zeitigt Erfolge. Da ist aber auch noch Luft nach oben, insbesondere wenn es um die eigentlichen Systeme geht. Wir haben viel Geld zusammenbekommen und dann etliche Lenkflugkörper. Gemeinsam mit Dänemark, den Niederlanden und Norwegen konnten wir in diesem Zusammenhang zum Beispiel eine große Anzahl von zusätzlichen Patriot-Lenkflugkörpern organisieren. Viele davon sind schon vor Ort. Viele weitere werden folgen, 68 in den nächsten Tagen und Wochen. Heute früh fand auf Arbeitsebene hier schon die ersten Abstimmungsgespräche statt, um alle Möglichkeiten auszuschöpfen, den Bereich Luftverteidigung, auf den es mehr denn je ankommt, weiter zu stärken. Wir unterstützen aber auch weiter im Bereich Drohnen, ebenfalls ein wichtiges Feld, auf dem wir gemeinsam noch mehr tun können. Wir werden konkret mehrere tausend Kampfdrohnen liefern. Und ich habe beim Besuch von Präsident Zelensky als Folge meines Besuchs in Odessa 14 Tage vorher auch weitere Unterstützung zusagen können, zum Beispiel im Bereich von Handwaffen, insbesondere von Scharfschützengewehren, die der ausbildende Kommandierende mir bei meinem Besuch im Trainingszentrum in der Nähe von Odessa sehr ans Herz gelegt hat, dass davon mehr gebraucht wird. Das konnten wir schnell organisieren, genauso wie Panzerabwehrwaffen und neue Komponenten für Artilleriemunition. Ich will es hier noch mal deutlich sagen, das ist auch bei meinem Besuch in Odessa mehr als deutlich geworden. Unsere Unterstützung ist wichtig, weil Russland versucht, die Ukraine zu zerstören. Russland tötet und verwundet jeden Tag Menschen. Die ukrainischen Städte werden systematisch und maximal brutal zerstört und angegriffen. Das beste aktuelle Beispiel ist Charkiw, eine bemerkenswerte, wichtige Stadt auch für das ukrainische gesellschaftliche Leben. Mit den von uns übergebenen Waffensystemen, mit unserer Ausbildung tragen wir dazu bei, dass die ukrainischen Streitkräfte dem Einhalt gebieten können, damit Menschenleben besser geschützt werden können und eben auch die Infrastruktur. Die nächsten Fragen, die wir jetzt hier und in den nächsten Tagen besprechen, richten sich aber nicht nur auf die unmittelbare Unterstützung, die natürlich im Mittelpunkt steht. Es geht auch um den langfristigen Fähigkeitsaufbau der ukrainischen Streitkräfte. Auch dazu gab es hier schon gestern Vorgespräche. Auch hier übernimmt Deutschland natürlich mit Verantwortung, vor allem im naheliegenden Bereich der Luftverteidigung, aber auch beim Aufbau gepanzerter Fahrzeuge. Da werde ich ein Letter of Intent unterschreiben mit meinem polnischen Kollegen und den zahlreichen anderen sogenannten Fähigkeitskoalitionen, in denen wir aktiv mitarbeiten. Wir werden uns im Übergang vom Treffen der Ukraine-Kontaktgruppe heute Morgen zum NATO-VM-Treffen aber auch mit der Frage befassen, kann es eine stärker koordinierende Rolle der NATO bei der Unterstützung der Ukraine geben? Das ist eine der Fragen, über die wir reden. Aber eine Frage, über die dann die Staats- und Regierungschefs letztlich beim Gipfel in Washington zu entscheiden haben. Klar muss sein, und daran lassen wir keinen Zweifel, wir stehen weiter an der Seite der Ukraine. Vielen Dank.
Sie haben eben die Luftverteidigung angesprochen. Wie optimistisch sind Sie denn, dass Sie die 7 Patriot-Systeme erreichen, die Herr Zelensky fordert? Herr Stoltenberg hat eben davon gesprochen, dass er hofft, dass das zeitnah passieren wird.
Ja, das hoffe ich auch. Ich meine, wenn Deutschland 3 zur Verfügung stellen kann, was immerhin ein Viertel unserer Gesamtkapazitäten dieses Systems bedeutet, dann werden andere sicherlich auch noch 1 abgeben können. Daran arbeiten wir weiter. Es muss ja nicht Patriot nur sein, es können ja auch andere sein, wie Sie wissen. Jedes System hilft, den Luftraum und damit die Sicherheit in der Ukraine zu schützen und zu verteidigen.
Dass Ungarn anscheinend ja die Blockadehaltung nicht einnimmt und die NATO stärker eingebunden werden kann in die Ukraine-Hilfe. Wie wichtig ist das?
Ich halte das für sehr wichtig. Es ist ein starkes Signal. Wie das jetzt praktisch aussieht, werden die nächsten Tage zeigen. Ich glaube, dass das ein gutes Signal ist. Wir nennen das ja nicht so, aber das, was wir da tun in der Unterstützung, ist richtig und darüber sind wir uns einig.
Could you speak a little bit in English about the effort to source more Patriot missiles, as Germany has done, and also the Netherlands initiative to try to source different parts of Patriots?
Well, I'm very glad about the initiative the Foreign Minister of Germany and me launched a couple of weeks ago. And I'm very pleased that we achieved, together with our partners, as just mentioned, Denmark and Netherlands and Norway, to provide more missiles for that system Patriot in a short notice. This is very crucial because every missile is important, every system is important, and therefore we have to do more. Air defense is crucial, even more than ever before in that war.
What about other parts for the Patriot system, radars or command and control centers? Where might these come from?
We are negotiating and discussing every possibility, and that means that includes, of course, radar systems, that includes systems, missiles. We are talking to Raytheon, the producer in the United States. So we try everything, but at the end, it's always the same problem. We need time to produce and we need time to provide. It's not really a challenge for Germany because we delivered a lot, but others maybe can do more.
And do you think this...
dass Sie im Juli mit einem Verteidigungsminister zusammensitzen, der vielleicht gar nicht mehr Teil der NATO sein will?
Das glaube ich ehrlich gesagt nicht. Also wie immer die Wahlen ausgehen werden, ich sehe Frankreich als festen Bestandteil der NATO. Alles andere wäre kaum zu erklären. Aber auch das müssen wir einfach abwarten.
What about the German-made munitions? What about German systems? You're talking about Patriot systems. What about German weaponry? Do you got any additional plans?
I don't understand that question. We already provided 3 systems. That means a quarter of our capacities. So there is no space for providing even more than those 3 systems. Now it's on other partners to provide systems.
Taurus rockets, Taurus missiles.
Everything is set about Taurus for the moment. Okay? Dankeschön. Danke.